Ambassador Kim Tae-ho walked through the marble halls of the Galactic Council building. His black diplomatic suit was perfectly clean, and his Earth medals shone under the bright alien lights. He had been Earth's voice in space for 20 years. Every alien species knew him as the human who always tried to make peace. Today felt different, though. The air in the building seemed heavy and cold. Alien guards with weapons watched him more carefully than usual. Their eyes followed his every step as he moved toward the Great Council chamber. Something was very wrong here. The chamber doors opened with a deep sound that echoed through the halls. Inside the massive room, 300 alien representatives sat in their seats. Each species had their own section with their own strange chairs and breathing equipment. The ceiling was so high that Kim Tae-ho could barely see the top of it. At Yao. The center of the room stood the judgment platform. This was where accused criminals had to stand while the council decided their fate. Kim Tae-ho had never expected to stand there himself, but today, a galactic guard pointed him toward the platform. With his weapon, the Vulcan Prime Minister stood up from his seat. He was twice as tall as any human with skin that looked like blue crystal. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass mixed with winter wind. Every word echoed through the silent chamber. Members of the Galactic Council, the Prime Minister, said, "We are here today because of serious crimes. The human species has broken the sacred treaty of galactic peace. They have built secret weapons in space areas where no weapons are allowed. They have stolen resources from the neutral zone that belongs to all species." Kim Tae-ho felt his heart beating faster. These accusations were completely false. He had spent the last 3 weeks investigating strange reports about human activities in deep space. What he found was not human crimes but alien lies. 3 powerful alien species had planted fake evidence to make humans look guilty. The reptilian chancellor hissed as he stood up. His long tail moved back and forth, showing his anger. The evidence is clear. Human ships were detected mining forbidden crystals from the sanctuary systems. Human soldiers built bases in areas protected by ancient law. These are acts of war against the galactic community, honored council members. Kim Tae-ho said, stepping forward, "I have brought proof that these charges are false. The data recordings show that the ships detected were not human vessels. They were alien ships disguised to look like Earth technology. The mining operations were conducted by—" "Silence," shouted the galactic judge. He was the oldest being in the chamber from a species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. His voice carried the power of ancient authority. "The evidence against your species is complete and undeniable. We have video recordings, sensor data, and witness testimony from multiple sources." Kim Tae-ho tried to speak again. "Your Honor, if you will just look at the data I have collected, you will see that—" "The human speaks of false data," interrupted the insectoid queen. Her voice buzzed like a million angry bees. "His species always lies when caught in their crimes. This is why they cannot be trusted with galactic citizenship." The chamber filled with angry sounds from hundreds of alien throats. Some species clicked their teeth, others hissed, and a few made sounds that hurt human ears. Kim Tae-ho realized that his fate had been decided before he even entered the room. This was not a trial, but a performance for the galactic public. The galactic judge raised his staff for silence. "The sacred treaty of galactic peace has protected our civilization for 10,000 years. Any species that breaks this treaty must face the ultimate punishment. The penalty for these crimes is death for the representative of the guilty species." Kim Tae-ho felt the floor seemed to disappear under his feet. He had known this might happen when he discovered the conspiracy against Earth. The 3 alien powers behind this plot wanted humanity eliminated from galactic politics. Humans had become too successful, too innovative, and other species feared being left behind in technology and trade. "The vote will now begin," announced the judge. "All those in favor of executing the human representative for crimes against galactic peace." One by one, the species representatives stood up. The Vulcans voted yes with their crystal hands glowing bright blue. The reptilians voted yes with loud hissing sounds. The insectoids voted yes with buzzing that filled the air. More and more species joined them until the chamber was full of alien voices calling for human blood. Kim Tae-ho watched as 47 species voted for his death. Only 3 small species voted against the execution and 12 others chose not to vote at all. The mathematics of galactic politics had doomed him. The powerful species had convinced the weak ones that humans were dangerous. "The vote is complete," declared the judge. "The human representative will be executed at sunset in the central square of the capital city. His death will be broadcast to every civilized world as a warning to all species that the sacred treaty must never be broken." Guards in heavy armor moved toward Kim Tae-ho. Their weapons hummed with energy that could kill him instantly if he tried to run, but he had no intention of running. He was a diplomat, and he would die with dignity like a diplomat should. As the guards placed energy shackles on his wrists, Kim Tae-ho activated his emergency communication device. He had only seconds before the aliens would detect and block his transmission to Earth. His message would have to be short and simple, but it needed to carry the weight of his 20 years of service. "Earth Control, this is Ambassador Kim Tae-ho." He spoke quickly into the tiny device hidden in his collar. "The conspiracy is real. Multiple species have framed humanity for war crimes. They plan to eliminate all human colonies and territories after my execution. This is not about law or justice. This is about fear of human progress. Remember who we are." The communication device sparked and died as alien jammers detected and destroyed it. Kim Tae-ho smiled slightly, knowing that his final message had been transmitted. Earth would know the truth about what happened here today. More importantly, Earth would know that this was not an accident or misunderstanding, but a deliberate act of war. The guards led him from the chamber toward his execution. Behind him, the alien representatives celebrated what they believed would be the end of human expansion into their galaxy. They had no idea that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. Kim Tae-ho thought about his wife and children back on Earth. He thought about the human colonies spread across dozens of star systems. Most of all, he thought about the words he had spoken in his final message. Remember who we are. Humans were survivors, fighters and innovators who had never backed down from any challenge. The aliens thought they were eliminating a threat. What they were actually doing was awakening something far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. President Lee Soo-jin sat in her private office deep beneath the Seoul Command Center. The room was built inside a mountain with walls made of the strongest metal Earth could produce. Above her head, 3 miles of rock and steel protected the most important military facility on the planet. The holographic display in front of her showed the final moments of Ambassador Kim Tae-ho. She watched as alien guards led him to a platform in the center of their capital city. Thousands of alien civilians gathered to witness what they thought would be a warning to all humans. Lee Soo-jin had known Kim Tae-ho since they were both young diplomats learning how to speak to alien species. He had been her mentor, her friend, and one of the finest humans ever to represent Earth among the stars. Now she watched helplessly as he died for crimes he never committed. The execution was broadcast live across every civilized world in the galaxy. The aliens wanted every species to see what happened to those who broke their sacred treaty. They wanted humans to feel afraid and weak. Instead, they had just created something much more dangerous. Defense Minister Park Ji-woo entered the office, without knocking. His face was dark with anger and his hands were clenched into fists. Behind him came Intelligence Director Choi Min-ho and Fleet Admiral Yang Hae-rim. All 3 of them had been watching the same broadcast. "Madam President," Park Ji-woo said in a voice like grinding steel, "our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive alien fleet movements. Over 300 warships are heading toward human colony systems. They are not coming to negotiate." Admiral Yang placed a datapad on the president's desk. Her usually calm face showed the same cold anger that filled the room. The fleet movements began exactly 1 hour after Tae-ho's execution. This was planned from the beginning. They never intended to stop with killing our ambassador. Director Choi activated another holographic display showing intercepted alien communications. The words were translated into Korean, but the meaning was clear in any language. "Multiple species are coordinating a simultaneous attack on all human territories. They plan to eliminate our entire civilization within 72 hours. Lee Soo-jin stood up slowly and walked to the window that looked out over Seoul. Even through 3 miles of rock, she could imagine the city above them full of people, who had no idea their entire species was about to be wiped out. Families eating dinner, children playing in parks, students studying for exams, all of them trusting their government to keep them safe. "How many of our ships can we recall in time?" she asked without turning around. "Our main battle fleets are scattered across 20 star systems protecting colonies and trade routes," Admiral Yang replied. "If we call them back now, we leave millions of civilians defenseless. If we don't call them back, we lose both the fleets and the civilians when the aliens attack." Minister Park pulled up a tactical display of human space. Red markers showed alien fleet positions moving like a closing net around every human world. They chose their timing perfectly. "Our forces are spread too thin to mount an effective defense using conventional tactics." "Conventional tactics," Director Choi repeated with a slight smile. "But we do have other options, don't we, Madam President Lee?" Soo-jin turned back to face her advisors. For 50 years, Earth had been preparing for exactly this situation. While they played the role of peaceful diplomats and traders in galactic society, they had been secretly developing weapons and strategies that no alien species knew existed. "Gentlemen and Admiral," Lee Soo-jin said quietly, "they want to see what humans do when pushed to the edge of extinction. Ambassador Tae-ho told us to remember who we are. I think it's time we showed the galaxy exactly who we are." She walked to a special safe built into the wall of her office. The safe required 3 different keys, DNA verification, and a voice password that changed every day. Inside was a single, red folder marked with symbols that only 4 people on Earth could read. "Project Ghost Protocol," she said, placing the folder on her desk. 50 years of preparation for the day when diplomacy failed and humanity faced annihilation. Every previous president hoped this day would never come. But Ambassador Kim Tae-ho is dead, and alien fleets are moving to destroy our colonies, Admiral. Yang opened the folder with hands that trembled slightly. Inside were blueprints for weapons that bent the laws of physics, ship designs that used technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien vessels that governments had studied in secret for decades. Most importantly, there were the coordinates of hidden shipyards in deep space where these weapons had been built and tested. "The Ghost Fleet," Director Choi whispered. "I helped design the intelligence networks, but I never knew the full scope of the project." "How many ships do we have?" "Enough," Lee Soo-jin replied. "More than enough. The aliens think they know our military capabilities because we showed them only what we wanted them to see. Our public navy was designed to look respectable, but not threatening. The Ghost Fleet was designed to end wars." Minister Park studied the weapon specifications with growing amazement. "These energy outputs are impossible. How did our scientists achieve this level of technology? By being human," the president answered. "While alien species grew comfortable with their superiority, we studied them. We learned from every crash, every artifact, every piece of technology they thought was safely beyond our understanding. We took their best ideas and made them better." The activation codes for Ghost Protocol required all 4 leaders to enter their keys simultaneously. Lee Soo-jin looked at each of her advisors, seeing the same cold determination in their eyes. They understood what they were about to unleash upon the galaxy. "Before we do this," Admiral Yang said, "you should know that every person in the Ghost Fleet volunteered after learning about Ambassador Tae-ho's execution. They are not just following orders. They are seeking justice for a murdered diplomat and protection for their families." "Then they understand the mission perfectly," Lee Soo-jin replied. The 4 keys were inserted into the activation console at exactly the same moment. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, hidden facilities began powering up. In deep space beyond the edge of mapped territory, massive shipyards came to life. The Ghost Fleet that had waited in darkness for 50 years was finally awakened. Communications. Channels opened to fleet commanders who had spent their entire careers preparing for this day. Ship captains who had trained on simulators more advanced than most alien vessels received their orders. 2 million volunteers who had signed up to defend humanity received the call they had been waiting for. President Lee Soo-jin spoke into the command microphone that would carry her voice to every Ghost Fleet vessel. "This is your president speaking. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho died today because aliens feared what humanity might become. They are about to discover what humanity already is. Begin Operation Righteous Fury. Show them that our mercy was the only thing keeping them safe. In the depths of spaceships that had never appeared on any official record began moving toward their targets. The galaxy had declared war on humanity. Now humanity would show them what war really meant. Captain Nam Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance watching as his ship came alive around him. For 15 years he had commanded this vessel in secret training exercises, far beyond the edge of known space. Today was the first time. His ship would see real combat, and he felt a mixture of excitement and cold anger flowing through his veins. The Soul's Vengeance was not like any ship the Galactic Council had ever seen. Her hull was forged from materials discovered in Earth's deepest ocean trenches combined with metal taken from crashed alien vessels. Her weapons could crack moons in half, and her shields could absorb the energy of an entire star. Most importantly, her engines could move through dimensions that alien science did not even know existed. Captain called Commander Ko Yunbi from the tactical station. All Ghost Fleet vessels are reporting ready status. We have confirmation from the Busan Thunder, the Incheon Storm, the Daegu Striker, and 397 other ships. Total personnel count is 2 million volunteers. Do-hyun looked at the holographic display that showed the entire galaxy spread out before him like a three-dimensional map. Red markers indicated alien fleet positions moving toward human colonies, like wolves closing in on sheep. The aliens thought they were hunting helpless prey, but they were about to discover they had cornered the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Weapons status report, he ordered. Lieutenant Bei Jin-woo checked his instruments with practiced efficiency. All primary weapons charged and ready, sir. Dimensional torpedoes are loaded and armed. Reality displacement cannons are online. Quantum mines are deployed and waiting for activation codes. The weapons Lieutenant described would have been considered impossible by galactic science. Humanity had spent 50 years studying every piece of alien technology they could find. They reverse-engineered crashed ships, analyzed captured equipment, and even conducted secret archaeological expeditions to find ancient alien artifacts. What they learned allowed them to build weapons that surpassed anything in the known galaxy. Engineering. Status. Do-hyun continued. Chief Engineer Lim Hae-won spoke from her station near the massive energy core that powered the ship. Dimensional engines are running at optimal efficiency, sir. We can maintain maximum speed for 72 hours of continuous combat. All backup systems are online and ready. Do-hyun nodded with satisfaction. Every person on his ship had volunteered for Ghost Fleet service, knowing they might never see Earth again. They had trained for years in absolute secrecy, learning to operate technology that officially did not exist. Today, all that training would be put to the ultimate test. Communications. He called to the signals officer. Incoming transmission from Earth Command, reported Lieutenant Park Min-soo. President Lee is addressing the entire Ghost Fleet. The main screen flickered to life, showing President Lee Soo-jin in the command center beneath Seoul. Her face was calm, but her eyes held the focused anger of someone who had watched a friend die for no reason. Behind her, the flags of Earth and all human colonies hung as silent witnesses to this historic moment. Ghost Fleet commanders, she began. You are about to begin the most important mission in human history. The galaxy has decided that our species is too dangerous to exist. They murdered our ambassador, and now they come to murder our families. We will show them what real danger looks like. Every person on the bridge listened to their president's words with complete attention. They had all seen the broadcast of Ambassador Kim Tae-ho's execution. They had all volunteered for this mission because they understood that humanity faced complete extinction if they did not act. You carry weapons that represent 50 years of human innovation and determination, President Lee continued. Use them wisely, but use them completely. The species that voted to kill our diplomat must learn that humanity's mercy was a choice, not a weakness. When you are finished, they will understand that we offered friendship, and they chose war. The transmission ended, but the president's words echoed in the silence of the bridge. Do-hyun looked at his crew, seeing the same cold determination in every face. They were not just soldiers following orders. They were humans defending their families, their homes, and their future among the stars. Captain, Commander Ko announced, We are receiving target assignments from Fleet Command. The Soul's Vengeance Battle Group is assigned to the Kelros system, home of the Velkan species. Do-hyun smiled without any warmth. The Velkans had led the conspiracy against humanity. Their prime minister had stood before the Galactic Council and lied about human crimes. Their fleets were already moving toward Earth colonies to begin the genocide they had planned. They would be the first to learn what happened when humans were pushed beyond all limits. All ships prepare for dimensional jump, he ordered. We are going to show the Velkans what human technology can really do. The Ghost Fleet had been designed using principles that alien science considered impossible. Human engineers had studied the fundamental forces of reality and learned to manipulate them in ways that broke every rule the galaxy thought it understood. Their ships could appear and disappear at will, phase through solid matter, and strike from directions that did not exist in normal space. Dimensional drives charging, reported the navigation officer. Jump coordinates locked in. All vessels ready for synchronized emergence. Do-hyun took one last look at the tactical display showing Kelros system. The Velkan home fleet consisted of 300 warships arranged in perfect defensive formation around their planet. Their commander probably felt confident that his superior numbers would crush any human attack. He was about to learn that numbers meant nothing when facing technology he could not understand. Execute jump, Do-hyun commanded. Reality twisted around the Soul's Vengeance as her dimensional engines activated. The ship and her escorts disappeared from normal space and began moving through layers of existence that most species did not even know were there. In seconds, they would emerge in the Kelros system like nightmares materializing from the dark between the stars. The hunt for humanity's enemies was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho had died telling his people to remember who they were. The Ghost Fleet was about to show the entire galaxy exactly who humans really were when their friends were murdered and their families threatened. In the depths of space, 50 Ghost Fleet battle groups prepared to strike simultaneously at every species that had voted for the ambassador's execution. The aliens wanted to see what humans did when pushed to the edge of extinction. They were about to get their answer, and it would be written in the wreckage of their fleets and the ashes of their military might. The Soul's Vengeance emerged from dimensional space above Kelros Prime like a predator appearing from the shadows. Around her, 4 dozen other ghost ships materialized in perfect formation, their weapons already charging for the attack that would change galactic history forever. Admiral Yoon Seok-jin watched his tactical display as 50 ghost ships emerged from dimensional space around Kelros Prime. The Velkan home system spread before them like a target painted against the stars. 3 gas giant planets orbited the central star along with dozens of moons and space stations. Most importantly, the blue-green world of Kelros Prime hung in space surrounded by the largest alien defense fleet in this sector of the galaxy. Enemy fleet composition, he requested, from his tactical officer. Commander Song Mi-young consulted her instruments with practiced efficiency. 300 Velkan warships in standard defensive formation, sir. 200 light cruisers, 50 heavy battleships, 30 command vessels, and 20 orbital defense platforms. Total estimated personnel approximately 500,000 aliens. Yoon nodded as he studied the enemy positions. The Velkans had arranged their fleet in layers around their homeworld exactly as their tactical manuals recommended. It was a formation designed to stop conventional attacks using conventional weapons. Unfortunately for them, the Ghost Fleet was neither conventional nor predictable. Signal from the Velkan Fleet Commander, announced the communications officer. They are demanding our immediate surrender and withdrawal from their system. Response, sir, asked Commander Song. Yoon thought about Ambassador Kim Tae-ho hanging from an alien rope, while crowds of alien civilians cheered for his death. He thought about the lies the Velkan Prime Minister had told about human crimes. Most of all, he thought about the alien fleets already moving toward human colonies to complete their planned genocide. Tell them that humanity does not negotiate with murderers, he replied. Then begin the attack. The Soul's Vengeance fired the first shot of what would become known as the Kelros Massacre. Her main weapon was a reality displacement cannon that fired concentrated beams of twisted space. The beam struck the lead Velkan battleship and simply erased it from existence. One moment, a massive warship filled with alien crew was floating in space. The next moment, there was nothing but empty vacuum where it used to be. The Velkan fleet. Commander General Vextalar had fought in 17 major battles during his long military career. He had defeated pirates, rebels, and even other alien species that challenged Velkan supremacy. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for weapons that could delete matter from reality itself. What happened to the crystalline pride, he demanded from his tactical officer. Unknown, sir, came the terrified reply. One moment it was there, the next moment our sensors show only empty space. No debris, no energy signature, no trace that a ship was ever in that position. More human weapons fired, and more Velkan ships disappeared. The Ghost Fleet had spread out into attack formation using their dimensional engines to appear and vanish at will. The aliens tried to target them, but their weapons could not lock onto ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessels, General Vextalar ordered. Full power to weapons and shields. 300 alien ships opened fire at once. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and missile swarms filled the space around Kelros Prime with deadly light. It was the most concentrated firepower the Velkan military had ever unleashed, and it would have vaporized any conventional fleet in seconds. The human shields absorbed every shot without even flickering. The ghost ships continued their attack as if the Velkan weapons were nothing more than flashlights shining against armor made from compressed stars. Human technology had advanced so far beyond galactic standards that the two sides were not even fighting the same kind of war. Impossible, whispered the Velkan tactical officer. Our most powerful weapons are having no effect at all. It's as if their ships exist in a completely different reality. That assessment was more accurate than the alien realized. Human engineers had learned to build vessels that could shift between multiple dimensions of space. They could be attacked in normal space while shooting back from parallel universes where different physical laws applied. The aliens were trying to fight an enemy they could not even properly detect. Captain Lim Hei-wan commanded the ghost ship Gwangju's Fury from her position in the second attack wave. She watched as her quantum torpedoes struck a Velkan command ship and turned its hull into a cascade of unstable matter. The alien vessel collapsed in on itself until it formed a tiny black hole that immediately evaporated in a burst of radiation. Enemy capital ships are breaking formation, her tactical officer reported. They are attempting to retreat toward the outer system. Negative, Hei-wan replied coldly. No survivors, no witnesses, no ships allowed to escape. Hunt them down and destroy every single one. The Ghost Fleet had been given specific orders about this mission. The aliens who voted to murder Ambassador Kim Tae-ho needed to understand the consequences of their actions. Every military asset in the Kelros system would be destroyed as a message to the rest of the galaxy about what happened when humans were betrayed. The battle, if it could be called a battle, lasted exactly 11 minutes and 37 seconds. When it was over, 300 Velkan warships had been reduced to glowing debris floating in space around their homeworld. Not a single human vessel had taken damage. Not one ghost ship had even needed to activate their backup shields. General Vextalar found himself alone on the bridge of his crippled flagship, watching human ships move through his system like sharks swimming through a school of fish. His entire fleet had been annihilated by enemies using technology he could not understand. The humans had not just defeated his forces, they had made them look like primitive savages throwing rocks at starships. Admiral Yoon came a transmission from Captain Nam Do-hyun aboard the Soul's Vengeance. All enemy combat vessels have been eliminated. Should we proceed to secondary targets? Yoon consulted the mission parameters downloaded from Earth Command. President Lee had been very specific about what constituted an appropriate response to Ambassador Tae-ho's murder. Military installations, weapons factories, government facilities, and anything that could be used to support future attacks against humanity were legitimate targets. Begin bombardment of military targets on Kelros Prime, he ordered. Spare civilian areas but eliminate every weapons system, every shipyard, and every government building. The Velkans wanted war, so we will give them a war they will never forget. The orbital bombardment began with surgical precision. Human targeting systems could identify individual buildings from space and destroy them without harming nearby structures. Military bases vanished in flashes of light. Weapon factories collapsed into rubble. Government buildings that had planned humanity's extinction were reduced to smoking craters. But the most important target was the building where the Vulcan Prime Minister had stood before the Galactic Council and lied about human crimes. The reality displacement cannon that destroyed it, fired from the Soul's Vengeance herself as a personal message from Admiral Yoon to the alien who had condemned Ambassador Kim Tae-ho to death. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out as other Ghost Fleet task forces struck simultaneously at 46 different star systems. Every species that had voted for the ambassador's execution was learning the same lesson the Vulcans had just received. The reptilian Chancellor's home fleet lasted 8 minutes against Captain Park Suman's battle group. The insectoid Queen's Royal Armada was destroyed in 6 minutes by Admiral Kim Jong-un's task force. Species after species watched their military might evaporate under the assault of weapons they had never imagined possible. Communications networks throughout the galaxy began, carrying reports of the devastating attacks. Fear spread faster than the Ghost Fleet itself, as alien governments realized the magnitude of their mistake. The humans they had dismissed as primitive newcomers were systematically dismantling galactic military power with casual efficiency. Admiral Yoon stood on his bridge watching the fires burning on Kelros Prime below. The Vulcan military no longer existed as an organized force. Their government buildings lay in ruins. Their ability to threaten human colonies had been eliminated permanently. Signal from Earth Command, announced his communications officer. President Lee is ordering all Ghost Fleet commanders to proceed to Phase 2 of Operation Righteous Fury. Phase 2 would target the species that had remained neutral during the vote to execute Ambassador Kim Tae-ho. They had not voted for his death, but they had also chosen not to defend him. Humanity would teach them that neutrality in the face of injustice carried its own price. The hunt for humanity's enemies was just beginning, and the galaxy was about to learn that humans had very long memories when it came to the murder of their friends. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the same chamber where Ambassador Kim Tae-ho had been condemned to death just 48 hours earlier. But now the mood was completely different. Instead of arrogant confidence, the alien representatives huddled together in fearful groups whispering about the disaster that had befallen their military forces. The galactic judge who had ordered the ambassador's execution now trembled as he read damage reports from across the galaxy. His ancient hands shook as he turned each page, revealing the scope of humanity's devastating response to their betrayal. 47 star systems attacked simultaneously, he announced to the terrified assembly. Complete destruction of military assets in every targeted location. 17 major battle fleets eliminated without inflicting a single casualty on human forces. Over 2 million alien military personnel killed or missing. Chancellor Kexthor of the Reptilian Alliance stood up from his seat, but his usual commanding presence had been replaced by obvious fear. His scaled hands gripped the podium so tightly that his claws left marks in the metal. "How is this possible?" he hissed. "Our intelligence reports indicated that humanity possessed fewer than 300 warships total. We detected no advanced weapon systems, no dimensional technology, no capabilities that could threaten our combined fleets." Intelligence Chief Mordak consulted his data tablets with hands that would not stop shaking. He had been the architect of the plan to frame humanity for war crimes. Now his careful conspiracy had unleashed something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. "Our estimates were completely wrong," he admitted. "The humans showed us only what they wanted us to see. Their diplomatic fleet and trade vessels were apparently just a disguise. The ships attacking our systems use technology we cannot even understand." The insectoid queen buzzed with agitation as she processed reports from her home system. Her royal armada had been the pride of her species for thousands of years. Now it existed only as scattered debris floating in space around her homeworld. "They destroyed 600 of my best warships in less than 10 minutes, she said in a voice like angry wasps. "My weapons could not penetrate their shields. My sensors could not track their movements. It was as if they were fighting from another dimension entirely." That assessment was more accurate than the Queen realized. Director Song Mi-young listened to the council session from her hidden base in the Andromeda corridor. The Human Intelligence Network had been monitoring alien communications since the Ghost Fleet attacks began. Every word spoken in the council chamber was being recorded for analysis. Song smiled as she reviewed the latest reports from her field agents. Panic was spreading through alien governments faster than any weapon could travel. Several species that had voted to execute Ambassador Kim Tae-ho were already withdrawing their fleets from human space, hoping to avoid further retaliation. But President Lee had been very clear about humanity's response. This would not end with military victory. The galaxy needed to understand that murdering human diplomats carried consequences that would echo through history. Fear was just the beginning of what humans could accomplish when they abandoned mercy. The Velkan Prime Minister, who had led the conspiracy against humanity, was noticeably absent from the council session. His government building had been one of the first targets destroyed during the attack on Kelros Prime. Intelligence reports suggested he was hiding in an underground bunker waiting for human ships to leave his system. "What do we know about their fleet size?" demanded the crystalline ambassador. "Surely they cannot have unlimited numbers of these advanced vessels." Chief Mordak consulted his reports again, hoping to find some encouraging news for the terrified assembly. What he found instead made his fear even worse. Our analysts estimate anywhere from 500 to 5,000 ghost ships based on attack patterns and simultaneous strikes across multiple systems. However, we have no reliable data because their vessels appear and disappear at will. They could have even more ships waiting in hidden locations. The truth was that human shipyards had been operating in secret for 50 years, building the ghost fleet in star systems so remote that no alien species had ever detected them. Humanity had learned patience from their history on Earth. They knew how to plan for long-term survival even when facing overwhelming odds. The council chamber erupted in dozens of different alien languages as species representatives argued about what to do next. Some wanted to negotiate for peace. Others demanded a coordinated counterattack using every remaining warship in the galaxy. A few suggested immediate surrender before more of their worlds were attacked. The Galactic judge pounded his staff against the floor trying to restore order to the chaotic session. When the noise finally died down, he spoke in a voice that carried the weight of his species' ancient authority. "The question before us is simple," he announced. "Do we continue this war against humanity, or do we seek terms for surrender? The evidence suggests that our conventional military forces cannot match their technological superiority." "Surrender," hissed Chancellor Kexthor. "The Reptilian Alliance has never surrendered to anyone in 3,000 years of galactic warfare." "Then perhaps it is time to start," replied the crystalline ambassador. "My species lost 400 ships yesterday. 400 vessels that took decades to build were destroyed in minutes by enemies we could not even see clearly." Director Song received a priority transmission from Earth Command while she monitored the alien discussions. President Lee appeared on her secure communication screen with news that would change the course of the war. "Director Song," the president said, "Phase 2 of Operation Righteous Fury will begin in 12 hours. I want you to deliver a message to the Galactic Council through their emergency communication channels." Song activated her recording equipment to capture the president's exact words. This message would be transmitted directly to the council chamber using frequencies that officially did not exist. The aliens would learn that their most secure communications had been compromised for years. Members of the Galactic Council, President Lee's recorded voice would soon echo through their chamber. "You murdered our ambassador based on lies and fabricated evidence. You plan to eliminate our entire species to protect your own political interests. We have responded with appropriate force." The message continued with cold precision. "You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally and submit to human oversight of galactic governance. If you refuse, we will begin targeting civilian infrastructure on your homeworlds. You wanted to see what humans do when pushed to extinction. We are showing you." Director Song transmitted the ultimatum using communication arrays hidden throughout the galaxy. Within minutes, every major alien government would receive the message simultaneously. The council session would learn that humanity could reach them anywhere at any time. Back in the council chamber, the Galactic Judge's communication console activated without warning. The device was supposed to be completely secure, accessible only to the highest levels of galactic government. When President Lee's voice began speaking, every alien representative fell silent with terror. The ultimatum played in the chamber, with perfect audio quality, as if the human president was standing at the speaker's podium. When it finished, the silence stretched for long minutes while the implications sank into alien minds that had never imagined such technological superiority. "They can access our most secure systems," whispered the insectoid queen. "If they can reach our communications, they can probably reach our defense networks, our planetary shields, our life support systems." Chancellor Kexthor slammed his scaled fist against his podium, but the gesture seemed weak and desperate rather than commanding. "This is impossible. No species has ever developed technology advanced enough to penetrate Council security protocols. Apparently one species has," replied the crystalline ambassador. "The question now is whether we fight a war we cannot win or accept terms that might allow our civilizations to survive." Intelligence Chief Mordak was studying his instruments with growing horror. The transmission originated from multiple points simultaneously. They have communication facilities we never detected scattered throughout the galaxy. We know nothing about their true capabilities. That realization sent a wave of fresh terror through the assembled aliens. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had maintained power through superior technology and overwhelming military force. They had never faced an enemy that surpassed them in both areas. More reports arrived from across the galaxy as the Ghost Fleet continued its systematic destruction of alien military assets. The Aquatic Federation's underwater cities had lost all their defense platforms. The Silicon Collective's asteroid mining operations were being eliminated one by one. Species that had seemed untouchable just days earlier were watching their power evaporate. The worst news came from the Mechanical Republic's home system. Their artificial intelligence networks had detected human ships that seemed to exist partially outside normal spacetime. The machines that had calculated victory probabilities for thousands of years were now reporting impossible readings. "Our quantum computers cannot process their ship movements," reported the mechanical representative. "They appear to violate fundamental laws of physics." The surrender ceremony took place in the same chamber where Ambassador Kim Tae-ho had been executed just 1 week earlier. But everything about the Great Hall had changed completely. Human soldiers in advanced battle armor lined the walls carrying weapons that seemed to glow with contained energy. Through the massive windows, Ghost Fleet vessels could be seen floating in perfect formation above the alien capital city. President Lee Soo-jin entered the chamber wearing simple black diplomatic clothing that stood in sharp contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial decorations of the alien representatives. Her arrival was announced not by fanfare or ritual, but by the simple respect of warriors who had proven their worth in battle. Behind her walked Admiral Yang Hee-rim carrying a memorial banner for the murdered ambassador. The banner displayed Kim Tae-ho's photograph along with the words he had spoken in his final transmission to Earth: "Remember who we are." Every alien in the chamber understood that those 4 words had changed the course of galactic history. The former galactic judge who had ordered the ambassador's execution, now stood before President Lee with his head bowed in defeat. His ancient species had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, but their reign had ended the moment they chose to murder a human diplomat. The formal surrender document trembled in his hands as he began to read. "The Galactic Council formally apologizes for the wrongful execution of Ambassador Kim Tae-ho of Earth." His voice was barely above a whisper. "All charges against humanity are withdrawn and declared false. The Council acknowledges that these charges were based on fabricated evidence designed to eliminate human influence in galactic affairs." He paused as if the next words were physically painful to speak. "The Galactic Council submits to human oversight of all interstellar governance and accepts full responsibility for the war crimes committed against the human species." President Lee listened to the surrender terms without any expression of triumph or satisfaction. She had not wanted this war, and she took no pleasure in the destruction it had required. The galaxy had forced her to unleash humanity's hidden strength, and now everyone would have to live with the consequences. "Your surrender is accepted," she replied in a voice that carried clearly through the silent chamber. But I want every species in this room to understand something important. We never wanted to rule you. We never wanted to conquer anyone or dominate. Galactic civilization. She gestured toward the memorial banner that honored their fallen diplomat. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho spent 20 years of his life building bridges between our species and yours. He believed that we could be partners, allies, friends among the stars. You murdered him because you were afraid of what humanity might become. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats as President Lee continued. Look what we accomplished together in just 50 years of cooperation. Human medicine, healing diseases that had plagued your species for millennia. Your technology enhancing human capabilities beyond anything we had imagined. Art, music, culture, and knowledge flowing between our worlds like rivers of light. A holographic display activated showing images of the galaxy before the war. Human doctors working alongside alien surgeons to save lives. Mixed crews of different species exploring unknown regions of space. Children from dozens of worlds playing together in integrated schools and communities. This is what you destroyed when you chose fear over friendship, President Lee said. This is what we lost when you decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. The silence in the chamber was broken by the crystalline ambassador who had been one of the few to vote against the ambassador's execution. Her voice rang like music as she spoke words that many in the room were thinking but afraid to say. President Lee, what terms do you require for peace? Can our species find a way back to the cooperation we once shared? President Lee looked around, the chamber at representatives from hundreds of different worlds. Some had voted to kill Ambassador Tae-ho. Others had remained neutral in the face of injustice. A few had tried to defend humanity, but been outvoted by the majority. All of them now faced an uncertain future under human protection. The terms are simple, she replied. Humanity will establish the Terran Oversight Commission to prevent any species from ever again framing another for imaginary crimes. The Ghost Fleet will patrol the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians of justice for all civilizations. The aliens had expected demands for tribute territory or submission to human rule. Instead, they were being offered protection under a system designed to prevent the kind of conspiracy that had led to this war. It was far more generous than they had any right to expect. Furthermore, President Lee continued, Ambassador Kim Tae-ho will be posthumously named the first galactic peacekeeper. His statue will be erected in the center of this chamber as a permanent reminder of the price of betrayal and the value of diplomatic solutions to interstellar conflicts. Over the following months, the new galactic order took shape under human guidance. The Terran Oversight Commission established offices on every major world staffed by mixed teams of humans and aliens, working together to investigate disputes before they could escalate to warfare. The Ghost Fleet maintained patrol routes throughout known space, but their weapons remained holstered as peace gradually returned to the galaxy. Captain Nam Do-hyun now held the rank of admiral commanding the Ghost Fleet from his flagship, which had been renamed Tae-ho's Legacy. The weapons that had brought terror to alien worlds were being converted for peaceful purposes. Reality displacement cannons became tools for asteroid mining. Dimensional engines opened new trade routes between distant star systems. The most important change was in the attitudes of the galactic species themselves. The younger generation of aliens grew up learning about the day their elders had tried to eliminate humanity from the galaxy. They studied the war as an example of how fear and prejudice could destroy the cooperation that made interstellar civilization possible. Admiral Nam stood on his bridge watching a peaceful sunset over New Geneva, humanity's new diplomatic capital. The city had been built as a symbol of hope, where representatives from every known species worked together to solve problems through negotiation rather than warfare. The streets were filled with beings from hundreds of different worlds living and working side by side. In the halls of the Terran Oversight Commission, former enemies had become partners in maintaining galactic peace. Falcon engineers worked with human scientists to develop new technologies for peaceful exploration. Reptilian strategists helped plan humanitarian missions to worlds struck by natural disasters. The insectoid Queen's hive minds calculated optimal resource distribution to prevent conflicts over scarce materials. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho's statue stood in the center of the old Galactic Council chamber, where species representatives now came to settle disputes through words rather than weapons. Children from every world visited the memorial to learn about the diplomat, whose death had changed the course of history. The inscription beneath his statue carried the words he had spoken in his final transmission to Earth: "Remember who we are." But now those words meant something different to the galaxy. They were not a call for vengeance, but a reminder that humans had chosen mercy when they could have chosen annihilation. Years passed, and the galaxy learned to live under the protection of the species they had once tried to destroy. Trade flourished between worlds that had been enemies. Scientific research advanced through cooperation between different forms of intelligence. Art and culture spread through space, carrying beauty and wisdom to civilizations that had nearly been lost to war. The stars no longer seemed cold and hostile to any species in the galaxy. They were home again for all the galaxy's children, both human and alien, united under a peace that had been purchased with blood, but maintained through understanding and mutual respect. The Ghost Fleet still patrolled the dark between the stars, but their mission had evolved from one of war to one of protection. They stood guard not just over human worlds, but over every species that called the galaxy home, ensuring that no diplomat would ever again die for telling the truth, and no civilization would face extinction for the crime of being different.